morning. Hello, everybody. Delighted to be here with three rock stars and one spiritual gangster. No. So our topic today is visualizing a gaming future. And there's some important news that happened today that I want to address right off with Shawn from Sony. Today there was a launch of the PS4 Pro.
Right.
Could you tell us a little about what that is?
Well, today we launched PS4 Pro, which is our latest entry into the continuing evolving of the PS4 platform. It's a more high-powered PlayStation 4, a lot more horsepower under the hood, and certainly for people who have invested into 4K displays or HDR technology.
So 4K is here.
Dynamic 4K gaming is here.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's so cool. Great. And speaking of products, last month the PlayStation VR came out.
Yes, we've had a lot of new products in the last 60 days.
So we're going to get to VR and AR. That's where we're going here.
And so PlayStation VR has been live in the marketplace for a month now. It's been extremely successful for us.
Reaction from fans, developers?
Critical reaction is great. Fans are very happy with it. The feedback we're getting is tremendous. Our problem now is you probably can't find it in a store near you.
Right. and I think, and as far as the available games, for the PS4 Pro, are they all compatible with the PS4?
Oh yeah, all PlayStation 4 games. This is not a new generation. We want to be very clear about that. This is just an extension within the PlayStation 4 platform. So all games that come out will play with the standard $299 PS4 as well as the new $400 PS4 Pro.
Yep. And I think why this matters and why I wanted to bring it up is, there's the Oculus for $600, the Vive for $800.
Right.
I think Sony's really putting a stake in the ground on the combination of the PlayStation and the PS4 and the PlayStation
and VR. Yeah.
And that's powerful, and that's going to get us into our conversation then. The first question I want to just lead with is AR versus VR. Which is dominant? Which one should we be paying attention to as consumers, as developers? What's on your mind when I ask that question, Holly?
So I think that what's very interesting was we're in the mobile gaming space.
Yeah.
So oftentimes it's very clear in the mobile gaming space that it's quite consolidated. We're definitely looking for new platforms. We're really wanting to see how VR is doing for Sony as well. And I think that there's an interesting play as AR as a step into VR. You see this with Pokemon Go. I know some people will say that's not true AR, but it is this for gamers there and casual gamers, because it did kind of cross over, bringing that to the next level.
It's a gateway drug to VR?
Yeah, I guess if you want to say it that way. But yeah, it definitely made it more accessible, for sure. And then the brand made it even more accessible within the mobile gaming world, because mobile gaming now it's just so hard to get users that brands are incredibly important. And that's been very clear with Pokemon Go. In fact, it was the same engine as Ingress, which they had released, and there was only about 1 million users because they had created their own IP, and it was just very difficult. But Pokemon Go just took it to the next level. So I think that might be a very interesting step, and it's just the beginning of AR.
What are you looking for, though? I know there's some consolidation going on, and does VR or AR have to get to a threshold, a critical mass before you?
Yeah. So as a content developer, there's certainly we do look for some critical mass, some type of market there before going. I think there's just a question of where is it, when is it going to happen. I think what's been very interesting is a mobile VR might be some type of push and some type of way that it could start bridging. My only question around that would be, can they make it accessible? Like, are you going to be sitting on the subway and you pop your mobile camera there?
Probably
I mean, you wouldn't know when to get off, right? So there has to be something that can help bridge it. I know Google Glass tried to do it. I don't know what it is, but I do think AR might actually end up being a bridge to VR.
My view is, for simplification purposes, the word reality is very important to note here, rather than augmented or virtual.
So it's not AR or VR, it's just R.
It's R, and as people, as very functional, normal human beings, and very physical creatures, the physical world is very important, and hence augmented reality as an industry will find a lot more use cases, because for augmented reality to do well and to scale, for computers to understand reality is very important. And we're noticing that to understand reality, it's basically you need to have cameras, device independent. So you have to realize today the form factor is phones, dominant, like 8 billion phones out there. It's a dominant form factor with majority of all of them have cameras on it. So whether you want to try AR on it or VR on it, depends on the medium, you could still get a lot of people to use it. It won't be nowhere near as immersive, but eventually we'll reach a point where AR and VR, definitely there'll be an aspect of the blending where you would need AR to trigger something, but then you would need VR to transport you to another environment.
And you're talking, when we talk about the physical world, it implies interactivity. And so AR has built-in interactivity in many ways that VR in some ways doesn't.
Yeah.
And so how, thinking about VR then, what becomes the killer app?
Well, I think, we're just now into like week 5 of PlayStation VR, and it really is a 1.0 platform. You'll see a lot of the games out there. We probably have 40 games now. We'll have over 50 by Christmas, across the range, right? You have traditional shooters and action adventure and driving games and more casual social games, because we're all trying to figure out what does this new medium bring. It's very important for us that we're looking at VR. It's not a peripheral. It's not an add-on. It's an entirely new platform for us and for creativity against that. So the killer app is the question. Nobody knows what that is.
Or is it just...
Or maybe it might be what killer piece of content,
or
right?
Good game.
What's very fascinating is you see Avatar. Avatar is an amazing example of actually bringing it in the IMAX theaters, but for China, it really everything's in 3D now. Once they released that movie, and for them, it was a very immersive experience. And I'm wondering if it might be some killer content that will create this, because VR is such an immersive experience. You just have to dedicate.
My view is no two content is same, and people have two kind of content curiosities. One is very engaging, deep, very immersive, and I think VR is unbeatable in that. Anybody who's engaged in that, and this is still the early days, so VR is going to take us to places and imagination. It's going to be amazing. But at the other side, physical creatures out and about in the real world, digestive pieces of instant fun, instant content, whether it's calories or playing games or looking for recipes, and you're out and about. What's that dog? What's that plant? Developers can give you, or content creators can give you instant snackable content. AR is going to scale massive out there because it'll run in milliseconds on your 3G, 4G, 5G connection. VR is going to be almost like, which requires time, effort, but your experience would be incomparable.
Are you describing AR as an interface to VR?
AR is certainly an interface. AR can bridge you, keep you in AR or take you into VR as well, but on a very portable format. But AR definitely requires very advanced computer vision and artificial intelligence.
And so what are some of the, I'll call it, the coolest apps or features within VR that you've seen? Is it social? Is it some kind of search? Is it, what do you think?
Well, we're coming at VR, obviously, because we're the PlayStation people. So we're coming at it from gaming, and we're developing a lot of games across that. One thing we've seen, though, is we get people into a VR experience, and it's extremely powerful. I don't think we're anywhere near a world where you'd sit in, for example, you spend 40 hours or 50 hours to play Final Fantasy. You won't want to do that in a VR experience. It would just be too intense. And so the VR experience we're looking at are typically 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes in length. But it really changes your perception of the world. Depending on the game, you really disassociate from reality. and completely suspend disbelief and buy into it in a way that has never happened before in gaming.
So for me, I think the most interesting applications that I've seen, and it might be partially because Kabam, even though we make games that we want to be as immersive and as beautiful as the Marvel characters, as immersive, we also really bring in social. And I kind of feel like when you have some friends to be able to chat with, I think that the most interesting ones was the Oculus Rift demo when Zuckerberg had done it. I know it was like 0.1, but it was very interesting that he could call his wife, that there was this kind of mix, almost this mixed reality, augmented reality. And I think that there's something very special about, even though you're immersed, you're still somehow connected in many ways. But I definitely think that there's going to be that ability to keep context, whether it be social, whether it be something practical. For me, personally, what I would love as a killer app for AR would be just like a sticker on my windshield. So as I'm driving, it could automatically tell me this is the exit instead of me always trying to say, oh, is this exit 398? Did I miss the turnaround? But that is super practical for me, something that I would definitely spend money on. Just roll out that sticker on my windshield and I could save a lot of frustration.
You should talk to the guys at Waze.
Yeah,
they need to get onto that.
If
Yeah.
anybody's at Waze, please
But as
contact me.
Sony, are you considering that at all? Like beyond gaming, to create communities?
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about VR right now, it is 1.0. We're just starting. We're in a world like when Edison, had that wax cylinder and he sang "Mary Had a Little Lamb" into it. That's kind of where VR is right now, and it grows from there. We've had a lot of interest on our campus from our sister company, Sony Pictures. They brought in a number of TV showrunners to come by, try the VR experience. They did this summer, and every one of them, to every person, they took the headset off, and they alternatively said either "wow" or a word I can't say on stage right now. Because their response to that was, the whole idea of virtual reality completely destroys narrative as we know it. How do I tell a story in a world where the viewer has free agency inside that? How do I move the story along if I can't force you to move with it? So we're going to see some really interesting stuff probably by the early part of next year, where we're seeing a lot of big name Hollywood talent, working in that VR world to see what they can express.
Is that working in the gaming world or?
No, that's going to be non-gaming entertainment.
Well, I think it goes back to what Rish was saying about how it's a new medium, so we don't really know what exactly it'll be. It'll probably form into itself and evolve over time, and it'll take probably people from Hollywood, some techies, people from the gaming world. Now, we obviously all know that gamers are one of the first to adopt, so for gaming companies like yourself to take the lead and really just push it forward can really obviously help make that space even more and more. But we actually don't know what it holds. And I think that's something that's pretty difficult to predict.
For us, what really matters, we are on the completely other spectrum of large companies like Sony or Facebook, where we really believe in the least common denominators. So we've designed this self-service tool called Blip Builder, which is like a universal AR, VR creator.
And a little known secret is 86,000 developers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
that's a crazy number.
Yeah. and
that's real.
So this toolkit, which we completely opened it up 2 days ago, it allows, we almost taking inspiration from the web. So we made it backward compatible to front-end programming like JavaScript, or basic gaming engines like Physics Engine, where any developer with most basic skills can create AR and VR content with minimum knowledge and self-publish it. So we're almost trying to become like the WordPress of AR, VR, and we don't have any affinity towards the form factor or device. You can export it into device of your choice.
Wow.
But how is that on the consumer end?
So, exactly, a great question. It's early days for consumers, and we remain a platform. And of course, the brands, the advertisers, the entertainers, the YouTube stars, all these guys have to create this amazing snackable content in multiple formats.
Yeah.
And this movement has started, but we still are focusing early on mobile as a factor because it drives more scalability. But at the same time, we are working with all the glass makers in case any one of them take off. the head-mounted devices.
I see.
But I think one of the challenges that we're having in VR is that we still don't have the vocabulary to describe it. We don't have the syntax or the grammar. We're trying to use, in my business anyway, we're trying to use current day gaming perspectives and gaming terminology to describe that, but we have to come up with new words. We can't just keep saying immersive.
That's true.
Because
That's true.
immersive games existed before
right.
there was VR.
And we kind of saw this move from games into Facebook, and from Facebook and even into mobile. Imagine how the games changed, right, over time, and we had to stop saying it. But the interesting thing is pieces are going back around. Like now we say AAA quality games on the mobile phone, and that's kind of evolved and gotten to a certain point. So there might be some, you have to go away and then it might come back again. But definitely the games have changed even on the phone. Even though it's highly immersive, we still need to make it snackable. And the medium has really pushed a whole different type of content, a great mix. And it's even ushered in a whole new business model, right, all together, which we never would have predicted.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I think it's much more approachable. I think when you really get into good VR experience, you can't have a standard interface. You're not pulling down a menu. You're not selecting options. You have to be able to work in real time in that as if it is the world you're in. And I think that presents new and exciting challenges for game designers.
That's right.
To figure out how to get around
Like,
that.
how do you click? Are you
Yeah, how do
winking
you
all the
click?
time?
Well, wink, wink. Speaking of that, I mean, this is fascinating. I could stay here, but we're out of time. I can't believe it.
Wow, that was fast.
And so did we visualize the future? I don't know. Hopefully we
Maybe a lot of winking.
talked about a lot of AR and VR and perhaps the next step for you as you leave the mobile platform at some point. But so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And appreciate everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.